anything we might say about the episodes themselves probably would be inaccurate. In other words, if we said, oh, the reason the Dark Shadows episode performed so well relative to our other episodes was because it was sort of like a documentary. We covered the whole history
Yeah.
of the franchise. But people wouldn't have known that until they got
Until they watched
through
it,
the
yeah.
whole thing.
Yeah.
So that doesn't explain why it has so many
Yeah, we
views,
weren't selling it as a documentary.
right? And
Which
the
I
same
thought
thing.
about, like, man, if I could just throw some captioning on it, I could probably just sell it on Amazon as a documentary.
Well, I don't want to touch on this too much because my feeling is we should never, we don't want to do anything to create false controversy because it looks like we're trying to get views, and
Yeah.
we don't do anything for money here. We don't have these videos aren't monetized.
No.
And any of the ads that people see on our videos, those are ads that YouTube forced on us.
All
We
right,
don't
yeah.
have any choice in that matter.
If any of them are monetized, some studios getting the money because
That's right.
they put a
Yeah,
copyright on
that's
them.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I noticed when I occasionally check the Dark Shadows or the Doctor No episode, I see ads all through them.
Yeah.
But there was someone who was a fan, I guess, of Jonathan Frid. I don't know if I mentioned this to you. They didn't comment on the video on YouTube. They found the video where I had posted it on Facebook,
Hmm.
and they left this long comment saying how disappointed they were with us. And
No, no.
I know that we're in trouble anytime somebody starts with "I'm very disappointed in you," like
Yeah, like they
they're
know us personally.
right,
Like they expected more of us going
right.
into it.
It's a college professor who's reviewing our work. I'm very
Yeah.
disappointed in you. I don't know why people would take that sort of high-handed attitude, especially since this person, who apparently was involved in the creation of a documentary about Jonathan Frid,
Hmm.
about which I won't say anything because I'm not here to knock anybody else's
Right,
work.
right, yeah.
But they seem to be part of this attitude that some fans have that they have a right to declare their ownership of certain people and movies and TV shows.
Properties, yeah.
Right. And Dog Shadows is a good example because we have heard a lot about the sort of toxic fandom that Dog Shadows has sometimes. And we didn't really see that with that episode of our show. The
No, a
response
lot
was
of the
very
comments
positive.
that I've seen were real positive.
Yeah.
The response on, when I would post it on Facebook was real positive.
So it was a bit of a surprise, but it basically comes down to this person saying, we don't have a right to express our opinions about Dog Shadows, about
Yeah.
Jonathan Frid's career. Only they, because they did this
Yeah.
documentary. And they were trying to shame us about, oh, you shouldn't make fun of he flubbed his lines because he was dyslexic. You didn't know if you watched our
Yeah.
documentary, you would have known. The guy's
Yeah.
dead, right? You're never going to be able to find out if he was dyslexic. It's speculation.
Yeah.
Catherine Leigh Scott said in some interview that she thought he might have been, or that somebody told her or whatever. But there's no proof there's no evidence of
No.
that. And it doesn't matter anyway because our episode didn't say, isn't that ridiculous? Look at how incompetent he was.
Yeah.
Everybody on that show forgot their lines.
Yeah. I could understand if we were saying the show was horrible and it was because he was a bad actor or because he was dyslexic or whatever. Well, we didn't say that. And I think the only comment that I remember seeing on YouTube where someone wasn't really too happy with this was me talking about how I thought he didn't have
Oh, the looks.
he wasn't handsome enough to be, what I'm saying? And someone's like, well, you don't have to be, Hollywood sexy to, and I'm like, well, I get that, but that was just my view
Well, you
of
went
what
so far as
of,
to compare him
yeah.
to that Doctor Who actor.
Yeah.
I could sort of see
That's what it
someone getting
was, yeah.
upset about that. Yes. But yeah, I mean, even that criticism of us was relatively mild, right? I mean, it
Yeah.
was just a person saying that they found him attractive, even though we didn't think he was a sort of typical
Yeah,
leading
but
man
it
type.
felt more like just a conversation.
Right,
Like, hey, I see what you said, but now, no, this is how
right.
this is my opinion. I think he was handsome or whatever.
And that approach would have worked here too with this person who was actually commenting under the name of their documentary. They weren't giving their personal name,
Yeah.
which strikes me as being kind of another crappy thing to do, right? You comment on somebody else's work, their face and their name are visible, but you're commenting under the name of a project you were involved in. So who are we talking to here?
Yeah.
Who's this person? But they could have said, "Hey guys, I really loved your show, but a couple of things." And then you say,
Right.
"Okay, well,
Yeah.
they're adding to the conversation." And so I'm very disappointed in you. And one of the other things they took exception to is I said at one point that he really didn't have much of a career after Dark Shadows. Now, Dark Shadows was, I think, an unexpected and perhaps to a certain extent unwelcome success for Jonathan Frid because he came from a wealthy family. He didn't really need to do anything.
Yeah.
So he got involved in this Dark Shadows thing and it became an unexpected hit. And I guess he wrote it for as long as he could tolerate it. But then after that, he pretty much wanted to get out of the business.
Right.
And this person who was commenting, "Oh, he did so many things after. He was on Broadway with Arsenic and Old Lace with Larry Storch." So he's on Broadway with Larry Storch.
Which was a really good movie. I love that movie
Oh,
with
wonderful
Cary
movie.
Grant.
Absolutely. It's a delight, right? But I mean, if you're saying that this is a person, Jonathan Frid was somebody that they're trying to make into this sort of um, great giant of the theater, right?
Yeah.
And yet the only thing that he can point to in what I guess amounted to almost 3 decades was that he did that, Arsenic and Old Lace. He did a play in Canada somewhere. Uh, and he did what I guess they call reading theater, where he would read stuff,
Yeah.
selection. Now, I don't know anybody who ever became famous in theater for reading stuff. But that was basically his one-man show. Anyway, just to put the capper on us, I've gone on too long already, I realize. But just to put the capper on all this, I happen to be looking at the archive that the Television Academy, there's an organization for television stuff,
Yeah.
and they have a YouTube channel where they have just unbelievable amounts of interviews, 1 and 2 hour interviews with prominent people in television throughout the history of television. And they have, I think it almost is a 2 hour interview with Jonathan Frid. And all these people that have set themselves up as the guardians of Jonathan Frid's reputation, all these fans who have stepped forward to, preach the gospel of Jonathan Frid, they should really watch this interview because he just is scathing in his criticism of his fans.
Really.
He repeatedly refers to the people that like Dog Shadows as stupid kids, dumb kids, and things like that. And even more surprisingly, he rips into Grayson Hall. Grayson Hall is the woman that played Dr. Julia Hoffman,
Hmm.
who is like his Scully, or Scully to his Mulder,
Yeah.
or Watson to his Holmes. And he may believe he couldn't even remember her name as he spoke about her as if she was just terrible. As a matter of fact, he used the word terrible 3 times in 2 sentences. That's how you know somebody who's an actor doesn't appreciate the work of another actor, right?
Yeah.
And he even went so far as to make fun of her eyelashes. The one quote that sticks out in my mind, he says, "Other people seem to love her, but I never thought much of her." And I'm not saying he's a bad guy. Maybe they
Yeah.
just got
Yeah.
him on a bad day that day when they were doing the interview. Or maybe he was getting towards the end of his mental, he was an
Yeah.
old man. Maybe he was having some cognitive problems. Towards the end of the interview, he just falls apart altogether. He
Yeah.
never seems to quite understand who is interviewing him because he keeps stopping the interview and very angrily saying, "Didn't we just talk about this? I thought we just covered this." Apparently, there was some other interview that happened before he did this 2 hour
Yeah.
interview, and he kept confusing the two. Anyway, I can't hold any grudge against him because I understand how hard it must be for somebody who takes themselves seriously as an actor to get stuck playing a vampire. And I think we haven't even talked about that in the episode.
Yeah.
What a drag it must be for people to be saying, "Why don't you show us how you get out of the coffin, or show us with the fangs." So I can understand that. But he, according to this interview, didn't make friends with any of the people in the cast, disliked Grayson Hall, who everybody thought was a great friend, and mocked her acting ability, mocked her eyelashes, and said that he didn't even think that vampire stories were worth his time. He thought they were stupid. So next time somebody wants to write a comment praising, what a great genius he was, or how important he was in theater or film or television, they should look at that interview and realize what his perspective on the whole thing was.
Yeah.